It's FYF Sports. FYF Sports again, man. FYF Sports debates. I just got woke up again by FYF Fred. FYF Fred woke me up again. And this time, it wasn't as crazy as last time. Last time he woke me up, he said that somebody was saying Carmelo Anthony was better than LeBron James. So we had to debunk that. That was easy. That was easy work. He woke me up today. It was something that, if you know basketball, is not very debatable, but to fans who don't really know the game, it's something that they can argue all day. But he woke me up and said that somebody on Ticket TV said that Robert Horry is better and has a better career than Draymond Green. And I said, okay. The one thing is, I don't want to disrespect Robert Horry. I definitely don't want to disrespect Robert Horry. He has the nickname Big Shot Bob for a reason. He's made some big shots. But when we talking about a person's career, we got to look at everything. And when I say everything, we got to look at not just your stats. We got to look at your accomplishments. We got to look at your role on these specific teams. Were you a starter? Were you a key player? Were you coming off the bench? We got to look at everything. So today, as y'all can see on the screen here, we got the head-to-head comparison of Draymond Green and Robert Horry. And so, as you guys know, man, this is a very informative site. As you saw last time, this website breaks down every detail with regards to this particular matchup. And so what we're going to do is we're going to break down this matchup. Now, obviously, you guys know that it's my premise that Draymond Green is a far better player than Robert Horry. All right. Far better player than Robert Horry, and he's had the better career. All right. So we're going to go ahead and we're gonna listen. We're gonna listen to this right here. We gotta listen now. We gotta see who's bringing up these nonsensical arguments, and whoever's bringing up these nonsensical arguments. See, now when we have the ability to pause you and you can't just keep talking, then we can expose the real facts. So a lot of times when you're talking on Ticket TV, you can't hit a mute button or you can't hit a pause button on these other guys. Ticket can mute you, but you can't hit a mute button on these other guys, so they can continue to spew lies and lies and lies. So I want to see how many lies we can catch them in today, and we just gonna go ahead and debunk it from there. All right, let's get started, man, with this. But make sure, before we get into this, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell on the video. Don't forget to do that. If you have any comments, make sure you hit us up in the comment section if you have any questions or concerns. All right, if you disagree with some of the information that you see here, hey, let me know in the video. Like I said, we take all questions. Make sure you hit us up on Instagram and Twitter as well. Again, if you have any questions, you can DM us. If you want to come on the show, put your email in the comments. We'd be glad to have. We take all comers. Anybody can get an interview with FYF Sports. Especially if you come in to talk nonsensical basketball arguments like what we probably about to hear today. I know FYF Fred, he normally doesn't wake me up unless it's just absolute craziness. So we're going to see what we got to debunk today.
No. He's playing with two of the greatest fucking shooters ever. What the hell are you talking about, man? He's a cog. Who had a better career? Let me ask you this: who had a better career, Robert Horry or Draymond Green?
Oh, Draymond for sure.
Robert fucking Horry. He got 7 championships, nigga, and he hit more clutch shots when they counted than that nigga Draymond, and he averaged more points.
Oh, see, I can catch people right in the act. See, and I didn't even have to scroll down this list right here, and I've already caught one lie. Robert Horry did make some big shots in his career. He came off the bench, and he hit some big shots in his career. Big shot Bob. He's been a part of a lot of championship teams. I give him that. But with regards to who's the better player and who's had the better career, that's a different story. So the first thing he said is that Robert Horry averages more points than Draymond Green. So with the head-to-head comparison right here, we're going to just scroll down and we're going to see who averages more points. So now we have their stats per game. These are stats per game. This is an easy one. So in the regular season, Draymond Green averages 9 points a game. Again, he could do better. He's always been criticized for his offense, but Robert Horry is only averaging 7. That's not more. Rebounds per game. Robert Horry is averaging 4.8. Draymond Green, 6.9 for his career. Assists per game. Robert Horry, 2.1. Draymond Green, 5.0. Steals per game. Draymond Green, 1.4. Robert Horry, 1.0. And then blocks per game. Let me scroll down so y'all can see this. Draymond Green, 1.1. Robert Horry, 0.9. So the one thing we've already debunked here is that in every major statistical category, Draymond Green's averages are a lot better than Robert Horry's. And so averages tell a big story, because averages typically tell what you normally do on a season by season basis. And so what we see here is, you know, if Draymond Green is Mr. Triple Single, Robert Horry created the Mr. Single stat line. All right. But you see, and again, a lot of people, they love to, you know, because what Robert Horry did was so dramatic. The shots were so big. The shots are all over ESPN. Those are the things that fans see, because that's what's put out there in front of you. All right. So the things that Robert Horry's done in his career, all right, that kind of overcompensate for the fact that he was a worse Mr. Triple Single than Draymond Green, is the fact that every big shot he's taken, they have been in big moments. And that's always put right in front of SportsCenter. So that's what fans see. With regards to Draymond Green, his bigger moments are usually more boring plays, more dull plays that really don't make the highlights. Defensive stops, defensive efforts, things of that nature. You don't really see that on ESPN. It's not what the people want to see. So again, they've both had a lot of accomplishments with regards to, you know, things that they do on the court. Robert Horry's definitely made some big shots, but when it comes to just averages per game, Robert Horry does nothing statistically better than Draymond Green. But, you know, like I said, we don't just rely on stats. We look at everything. We're going to look at the playoffs numbers. We're going to look at the accolades. We're going to look at all of that. And we're going to compare everything head to head to see if these numbers, are these averages a bit misleading. But the one thing we know for sure is that this guy with the A has once again been caught in another lie, obvious lie. He says that Robert Horry averages more points per game than Draymond Green. So, you know, people just like to knock and down Draymond Green because he's not a scorer. So they just say anybody scores more points than Draymond Green, when that's just not true. Robert Horry only averaged 7 points a game. And what a lot of people don't know is that during a lot of those seasons where Robert Horry was hitting those big shots, these were games where he was just coming off the bench, where he didn't even play much in a lot of these games. He wasn't a primary bench player. But the coach trusted in him and knew that in big moments they could bring him in off the bench and he could hit a big shot. And he did that well in his career. So we're going to just go ahead and hear these guys out just a little bit more. Hopefully we don't have to catch them in any more lies, but again, I kind of doubt that.
Draymond Green. And he averaged more points and rebounds than Draymond Green.
He said he averaged more points and rebounds than Draymond Green. Again, as y'all can see right here for the career averages, Draymond Green averages more points and Draymond Green averages more rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. So again, if he says that Robert Horry averages anything more than Draymond Green, it's a lie. Robert Horry does not do anything in any major statistical category better than Draymond Green. These are the averages.
Green.
Hey, how many times Horry been an All-Star?
Bro, who gives a fuck, bro? How many times?
See, this is one of these weird things about these guys. When you know they will ask you questions all day, but when you ask them a tough question, it all of a sudden is irrelevant. So Supermac asked a really good question here. Supermac said, "How many times has Robert Horry been an All-Star?" This is important in establishing who's the better player, because typically better players make All-Star games, and we can say that it's typically a fan vote, but that's only for the starters. The other players are voted in by the coaches. So it's harder to make an All-Star game being voted in by the coaches, because the coaches actually see the game. They understand the game. They know who the better players are. So we're just gonna go look at those accolades. We're gonna just check it out really quick, just to make sure I'm not wrong. Robert Horry may have possibly made an All-Star game. I don't remember him being in any All-Star games, but we're gonna double check just to be sure. Okay. So as y'all can see here, All-Star games. Draymond Green's been to 3 All-Star games. Robert Horry's been to 0. That was easy. And again, when you ask people who don't like Draymond Green this question, they like to avoid that, because they know that being an All-Star matters. And we know that being an All-Star matters because when it comes to making comparison amongst other players, it matters then. But people who want to discredit what Draymond Green does, all of a sudden his accolades don't matter because they apply to him. And again, that's just it's just unfair to argue like that. His accomplishments and accolades are what they are. You can't take it away from the man, and you have to give him credit for it.
How many? Okay, look, he's never been an All-Star, right? Look, he's never been an All-Star, but he's hit way more clutch shots. But he's hit way more clutch shots than Draymond Green has ever hit.
He's never been an All-Star.
In the
I think he said something factual. He's hit more clutch shots. He's hit more clutch shots than Draymond Green. John Paxson's hit more clutch shots than Draymond Green in the playoffs. Steve Kerr's hit more clutch shots than Draymond Green in the playoff. So, there are, a lot of players who've made clutch shots in NBA history in big moments. It doesn't necessarily mean that they match up or are better than other players who haven't done that. And when you're playing on a team with Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson, those guys are probably going to take the clutch shots, not you. Because we're dealing with 3 of the most gifted offensive players in NBA history. So I think that's just really a kind of an unfair comparison to even throw that in there, because it was never Draymond Green's job to go in and make clutch shots. That's not his role. He was never going to be asked to do that. So Robert Horry's role on a lot of these teams was to come in the playoffs and hopefully make clutch shots, and he did that very well. So that was just his role. The same way Draymond's role is to come in for the Warriors team and pick up the slack on defense. All right.
finals.
Never been an All-Star.
And the playoffs.
Never been an All-Star.
So what? How many clutch shots has Draymond Green hit? How many clutch shots has Draymond Green hit compared to?
Again, this is another what we call a nonsensical argument. This argument makes no sense at all. Hitting clutch shots in the playoffs doesn't necessarily mean you're a better player than someone else. Because again, we can go down the list and we can look at a lot of players who've made clutch shots in the playoffs, but not necessarily because they're the best player or because they're a better player than other guys. Okay, I'll give you an example. When Phil Jackson drew up a play for Tony Kukoc to take the last shot over Scottie Pippen. Well, Scottie Pippen was upset and didn't want to come in the game because he felt he was the best player on the team and he should take the last shot. But Phil Jackson knew, as he stated in The Last Dance, that he's seen Tony in these situations make these shots before. And because he's seen that as a coach, it was his job to put the right person in place to take that shot. And as we all saw, Tony Kukoc actually made the shot. So is Tony Kukoc better than Scottie Pippen? Because Phil Jackson drew up that play in the last seconds? Again, that's just simply a coach's decision. Right? But it does not necessarily mean one particular player is better than the other. And again, I've just given you a really good example of why that's not the case. Scottie Pippen, Tony Kukoc, if you haven't seen the game, go look it up. Pippen refused to come in the game, so they put Pete Myers in the game. They ran the play for Tony Kukoc, and he hit the jumper to win the game in the playoffs. That was a clutch moment where the best player on that team did not take the clutch shot. And again, like I said, don't make nonsensical arguments that don't mean anything. Everybody has a role on the team. It's just your job to do your role. And Tony Kukoc did his job very well. Draymond Green does his job very well. And I don't take nothing away from Robbie Horry, because as a shot maker, making those shots in big moments, he did his job very well.
How many times he won Defensive Player of the Year?
Nigga, how many clutch shots did that nigga hit? I don't want to hear about.
Again, we're back at the clutch shots again. You know, again, when someone really doesn't have a strong argument, they continue to repeat the same thing. And so, again, I wish Supermac. And again, when you're in these debates and you don't have time to really think and research right on the fly, I can understand why Supermac didn't readily have that information available. But again, if you understand the game of basketball, you know that the people who take those clutch shots sometimes are not the best player on the team. And we've seen it time and time again in the playoffs and in the regular season. It does not necessarily mean, again, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best player on the team. Another example is Jamal Crawford. Jamal Crawford, on some of the teams he's played on, was never the best player on the team. He was coming off the bench. He was one of the better scorers on the team, but there are a lot of teams that he was on where he was never the best player. But coaches consistently drew up last-second plays for Jamal Crawford because he made shots in the clutch. That was his job. So again, making clutch shots does not correlate to being a better player. Understand the game of basketball and you will know that.
I know defensive player of the years and none of that shit right now. We talking about, if you talking about the greatest fucking role player in the world, it'd be Robert Horry way before his motherfucker.
Well, Robert Horry played his role extremely well. His job was to come in and make clutch shots. Draymond Green has a bigger role and is a more integral piece to a championship team than Robert Horry. Draymond Green is asked to do more. He's asked to jumpstart the offense. He's asked to jumpstart the fast break. He's asked to defend the best players. He's asked to play more help defense. He's asked to rebound the ball. He's asked to do a number of things on the court. Robert Horry never had those type of duties on any team that he's played on. So, again, that's still debatable. But when we look at everything that Draymond Green is asked to do, and he still found a way to excel, and not just excel, again, he's been recognized by the NBA in excelling at his role by having the 3 All-Star games, as Supermax said, by winning Defensive Player of the Year. That's excelling in your role. The fact that Robert Horry hasn't excelled in his role enough to actually achieve any of these additional accolades just lets you know, again, that's an indicator that Draymond Green has just starred in his role better than Robert Horry has.
Fucking Draymond Green, nigga.
Hey, he faced Job Lillard in them. He faced Job him one time, iced the game on him.
Okay, one time. How many times did Robert Horry hit clutch shots in the playoffs and finals?
Well, that's Robert Horry.
How many fucking times, nigga?
That's Robert Horry.
Is it more than one?
For his career.
Hold on.
Again, this is the very indicator that someone has a very weak argument when they continue to repeat the same thing over and over and over. Robert Horry made more clutch shots. Supermac will say Defensive Player of the Year. Robert Horry made more clutch shots. Supermac will say, he has more assists. Robert Horry made more. Again, have some variety. Have some variety in your arguments. Don't continue to say the same thing over and over again. Again, we all know that Robert Horry's made a lot of clutch shots in clutch moments for great teams. And it's just, it's not a very strong argument. And I think I heard you saying before that Draymond Green, he's riding the coattails of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. But, last time I checked, when did Robert Horry not play on a great team? He played with Akeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler. He played with Kobe and Shaq. He played with the Spurs, Tim Duncan. I mean, these are great coaches, great teams, loaded with players. Did he ride the coattails? No. See, we don't say Robert Horry rode the coattails of anyone because we respect what his role was and we respect the fact that he did his role well. So when it comes to Draymond Green, why don't you just respect what his role is and respect what he does well in his role? See, when it's broken down like that, then we see how biased your arguments are.
It's way more than one, right? It's way more than one, right? Okay, then what the hell are you talking about?
Well, what you talking about?
What else he gonna do? Spiffy, I'm not saying his career is over. Spiffy, what I'm trying to get you to understand is he's not going to do anything himself that's going to get him no motherfucking rings. So everything he's getting is off the coattails of other people. When he gets the All-Stars, he's getting it off the coattails of other people, bro.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Yes, it is, bro.
He says Robert Horry was getting it off the coattails of other people. It's just weird that he says that. I mean, does he not realize the teams that Robert Horry played on? The Spurs teams, the Rockets teams. These are all extremely great teams. The Laker teams. These are great teams with great players. Again, it's just a poor argument. It's a poor argument to start to preface your points by saying that Draymond Green is riding the coattails of two great players when the very guy that you're defending has always rode the coattails of great players. And he's just found a way to excel in the role that was given to him, which was make shots in clutch moments.
Spiffy, didn't you say you a point guard, right? Spiffy, you a point guard, right? Spiffy, let me ask you a question. You a point guard, right? You can keep saying it's my opinion. That's fine. Okay, keep saying it, bro. That still don't change the facts of what I'm saying. You can say that shit all day. It is my opinion. But my opinion is based off. But my opinion is based off my observation of what the fuck was happening and breaking that shit down and analysis, not off my emotion.
I'm really curious to know what this dude actually breaks down, because the dude's only said one thing for the last 30 seconds. He said Robert Horry made more clutch shots. This man has not said anything else about Robert Horry's game. He did not mention that early on in Robert Horry's career, people actually compared him to Scottie Pippen because of his defense. He was more than just Big Shot Bob. I mean, his career didn't pan out to what a lot of people thought it would be, but he found a way to be great.
Emotional reaction like you. That's why you keep saying that. You trying to tell yourself that shit, not me. You said that shit to yourself. Spiffy, if you played for the Golden State Warriors, nigga, and you was on the court with KD, Steph, and Klay, you would average more assists than Draymond Green.
Here's the funny part, and this is what a lot of people say. They say that you can plug anyone in Draymond Green's position and anyone could do what Draymond Green does. And the easy way to debunk that is to talk about the finals when Draymond Green got suspended for swiping at LeBron James. No, everybody in the basketball realm will tell you that because Draymond Green got suspended, he cost his team a championship. Now, there's a reason why people blame Draymond for that championship loss. He's blamed because he was an integral piece of that team. He's blamed because he was a big part of what that team does. And when he was suspended, when he was removed from that initial game, and when he was suspended, all of that was missing, and it could not be replaced by the next guy on the bench. Because if the next guy on the bench could just come in and fill in immediately and put up those types of numbers, then they would have not had any problem to finishing off the Cleveland Cavs to win the championship. So again, and then if you want to try to lie and say that they lost for any other reason, then you're just simply lying. But everyone who knows basketball knows and understands that Draymond Green cost the Warriors a championship by getting suspended. He cost them a championship, and the only way you can cost a team a championship is when you actually have or hold value within your role on that team. And Draymond Green played an integral role on that team.
That's your opinion again.
And more points.
And you like to make up a lot of fantasy items shit. I noticed your style.
Fantasy Island, motherfucker. What are you talking about? You playing with 3 great fucking players and you can't score. What else you gonna do with the ball?
Robert Horry played with great players his whole career and only found a way to average 7 points per game. And far less stats in all other major statistical categories than Draymond Green. So again, don't defend players like Robert Horry if you don't know what they actually did on the court or what their role was. And the fact that you're defending Robert Horry, saying that he was a better rebounder and a better scorer than Draymond Green, tells me that you're just a fan. You don't really watch basketball. You don't really study the game. You just watch what ESPN shows you. And that's the proof of that is just in what you're saying. All right, because again, if you watch the ESPN highlights and you see Robert Horry making these big shots, that's all you see. And again, you don't understand that that was his role. There were a lot of times where he didn't play a minute leading up into those final moments, and the coach would put him in and he would make a big shot. That was his role. That's just a role. Everyone has roles. And just because your role is to come in and make clutch shots, like Robert Horry, like a Jamal Crawford and players like that, even a Joe Johnson later on in his career, that does not necessarily mean you're the best player on any given team. That means that's just what you do good, and that's why the coach is bringing you in.
Supermac, what the fuck else you want to do, Supermac? If you Draymond Green, you can't fucking score. You can't fucking score. What? It's my handle. My handle's a solid 9. Look at
Okay,
that.
hey, Star 9, I got a job for the Cartoon Network. You like to make
I'm sure you do, nigga. You's a cartoon, nigga. You funny. Yeah. So anyway, back to the real shit. Like I said, nigga,
Cartoon Network.
when a nigga getting his ass beat, now you gotta go to bullshit. See right here? Hey, Jay, you see how nigga is, right? They get cooked and now they gotta, oh man, let me try to make a joke. Nah, nigga, I ain't got time for jokes, nigga. Ain't time for jokes, nigga.
Cartoon because you keep
Nah, use a cartoon, nigga.
If
I bet
somebody
you, hey.
with Curry, if somebody played with Curry,
Nigga, I'm just telling you, I'm just showing you how weak your nigga is.
Okay, so he says Draymond Green is weak because Draymond Green played with 2 great players, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, KD when KD was there. That's all true. But he's never, and I'm so upset that Supermac didn't mention this, but Robert Horry also played with a lot of great players, as we've already mentioned. We don't even have to go over all the names. Robert Horry's played with more Hall of Famers than a lot of NBA players. Far more Hall of Famers than Draymond Green ever has. And far greater players. He's played with Shaq and Kobe. He's Kobe, one of the top 5 players in NBA history. He played with Shaq, one of the top 3 centers in NBA history. He played with Hakeem, one of the top 3 centers in NBA history. He played with Tim Duncan, the greatest power forward in NBA history. He played with Manu Ginobili, arguably one of the greatest 6 men in NBA history. Tony Parker, and we can go down the list, Clyde Drexler. We can continue to go down the list of all of the great players that Robert Horry played with. But nobody will say that he rolled the coattails of these players. Even though he played minimal minutes on a lot of these teams. Even though he had a very minimal role on a lot of these teams, a lot of these guys, they only know what they see on ESPN, which is that when his number was called, whether he only played like 3 or 4 or 5 minutes in a game, when his number was called, he was able to come in and do his job. So I just want you guys to give Draymond Green his credit, because his number was called by Mark Jackson. And when his number was called, they gave him a specific role. That's to be a point forward, push the ball in transition, because we have shooters who can run the floor. It's to defend multiple positions, because it's a pick and roll league now and we're constantly switching. Teams are always trying to find the worst matchup, so they continuously pick and roll. So he's constantly switching. Play great help defense, be a great passer, be a great screener for all the shooters that you got around you, and then score the ball when you have to. When you're playing with 3 of the greatest scorers in NBA history, I don't think there's really much room left for you to try to get your 10 to 15 to 20 points in, as easy as you guys say it is, because you still have players like Andre Iguodala who's going to get his points. You still have players like Sean Livingston who's going to get his points. You still have players like Harrison Barnes who's going to go and get his points. You still have a lot of players. You have a lot of good scorers on that team who all are going to be trying to vie in for points as well. So again, it makes no sense to tell Draymond Green to do all of these other intangibles, rebounding, defending, doing all of these other things, and also score the ball. Again, nobody's given one singular role. Nobody's given all of these multiple tasks. You have your role and you do your role well. If you can excel in your role, you'll be great in the NBA.
Bro, if you replace that nigga with damn near any fucking body and tell him, hey, bro, when you can't score, you just pass it to these niggas. Matter of fact, we don't care if you score or not. Just pass it to these niggas and get rebounds. You don't think, like, damn, there's at least 15 to 25 other motherfuckers in the NBA that can do that shit?
Hell no.
See, again, you guys, this is another weak argument. Because, again, if it was that easy to come in and replace what Draymond Green does, then what would have happened was when he got suspended in the finals, the next man up on the bench would have came in and did what Draymond Green does, and they would have won the championship. As opposed to everyone blame Draymond Green for getting suspended and then they lose the finals. Now, what you'll have is you'll have people like this guy with the A, when you tell them that Draymond Green cost them the finals by getting suspended, that what they'll do is they'll divert and say, no, it wasn't because of Draymond Green. They'll say it was because of Steph Curry. He shot bad. Again, don't fall for those lies. Don't fall for the hype. Again, we all know the truth. These guys actually know the truth. But they just try to duck and dodge the facts, playing semantics just to prove very, very erroneous and non-factual points like this. So again, we've caught this man in a number of lies. Robert Horry did nothing better than Draymond Green, and we still haven't even went through all of the stats.
You don't think? Now listen. First of all, this is how stupid what you're saying is. There's niggas on other teams right now. Hold on. There's niggas on other teams right now with better numbers than this nigga who are role players on their teams. But you're saying they couldn't do that on the Warriors?
No.
With better players in front of them? Get the fuck out of here.
No.
Okay. There are other players on other teams that put up better numbers than Draymond. But again, it's the impact of those numbers, right? And then what you also have to take into consideration is that a lot of the things that Draymond Green is asked to do don't really show up on the stat sheet. For example, a player like PJ Tucker, nothing that he does shows up on a stat sheet that an actual fan will give respect to. But he's a starter for the Houston Rockets. All right. The same with Patrick Beverley. Patrick Beverley will, make the occasional three. He'll have some games where he might drop 20 if he gets hot. But for the most part, Patrick Beverley's not going out putting up big numbers. PJ Tucker's not going out putting up big numbers. These guys have one job and one job only. Their job is to come in, be the junkyard dogs, defend, and do a lot of the intangibles that you don't get credit for. See, the people who give players credit are the guys that write the checks. This is one of the reasons why Draymond Green got $100 million contract. So when you ask why he got $100 million, why don't you go Google the word intangibles and basketball in the same sentence and then see who pops up?
Now, James, who sounds like a cartoon between me and Superman?
I know a whole lot of motherfuckers that get in the championship and choke, and get in the playoffs and choke.
Draymond hit no clutch shot, so you can't even put him in the conversation of what we're talking about. What you talking about right there?
What's the matter with you? He's a starter on a team that went to 5 championships in a row. What is the matter with you, man?
Nigga, so is Luke Longley, nigga. Luke Longley ain't getting in the fucking Hall of Fame. What the fuck are you talking about? Luke Longley was a starter on the Bulls, nigga. What the fuck with Jordan? What the fuck are you talking about? You just named his starters. He was a starter on a championship. Who gives a fuck?
Here's the false narrative. But Luke Longley, again, was never asked to do everything that Draymond Green does. And he never excelled in his role the way that Draymond Green excelled in his role. Again, you know, the NBA actually rewards you. The NBA rewards you when you excel in some of the things you do. You know, this is why you can get certain awards like Defensive Player of the Year. This is why you can make defensive first teams. This is why you can make defensive second teams. All right, this is why you can become the steals leader. You know, that's just simply by excelling in your role. And if your premise that playing with great players should make it easier for you to accumulate more stats, then why aren't all these other players doing it? If you look at that Shaq and Kobe team, one of those Shaq and Kobe teams that went to the finals, or specifically if we look at that 2002 team, there were only 3 players on that team that averaged double figures. Everybody else on that roster averaged single digits. It was nobody else's responsibility to come in and try to drop 20 or 10 or 15. That wasn't their responsibility, and Phil Jackson did a good job of helping everyone understand their role. So although Derek Fisher was on that team and he didn't average double digit scoring, he was of value to that team because he knew what his role was. And there were a lot of players on that 2002 Laker team that just simply knew what their role was. When we look at the Celtics teams with Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce, go down the line. Look at the guys that averaged double figures. There were only 4 guys on that team that averaged double figures. That was Rondo, Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce. Everyone else was in single-digit scoring. All right, those guys play with 4 great players, 4 Hall of Fame type players. So if you are using the premise that playing with great players should excel your numbers, no. Like I've told you guys before, playing with great players actually diminishes your numbers in most statistical categories. It diminishes your numbers in most statistical categories. So again, it's a lie to say that Draymond Green, because he plays with Steph and Clay and Kevin Durant, should have these crazy inflated numbers that you hold no one else to that standard. Draymond Green should average 10 rebounds a game. Draymond Green should average 10 assists a game. He should do all these things playing with all these great players. All right. Why don't you just give the man respect for what he does, because he does his role great? You know, when you talk about assists, why don't you bring up the fact that out of all power forwards in the league at his position, he has more assists than all power forwards in the league. He's not the primary ball handler, so obviously he's not going to have the most assists on that team. We're talking about a Golden State Warrior team that had an offense predicated on continuously moving the ball. You know, what if he was the guy that made the hockey assist, passed it to the man who then passed it to the next guy who actually made the assist? Again, you guys got to stop looking at basketball in such a layman's way. Like, you guys act like you just learned the game of basketball, but what this really exposes is that guys who say they've really played basketball in their careers don't understand basketball. Because if you play college basketball, especially at the D1 level, the one thing that you do, especially at the D1 level, is you break down game film. And being on a D1 team, what the coaches do is they break down game film with the team, and then they go with each player and they break down game film with each player. So when coaches break down game film with you individually, These are some of the things that they talk about to help you, especially if you're not one of the star players on the team, because breaking down game film in that particular manner helps you understand your role a lot better. But see, again, that's me really getting in too deep with regards to basketball. So I'm just, like I said, I'm just trying to break this down in a way that you will understand, because you guys are so simple-minded when it comes to basketball. You think it's just about accumulating assists, accumulating rebounds, accumulating points. It's not really necessarily about those things. It's about doing what it takes to win the game. And at the end of the day, Draymond Green just does what it takes to win the game, and he does a great job at it.
If he wasn't the nigga that got them there or the nigga that put them through, then nobody gives a fuck.
He didn't contribute like Draymond contributed, my brother.
That's true.
Okay. That's what you say, right? I'm just throwing him out.
No, that's what the numbers say. The numbers say that Robert Horry didn't contribute like Draymond Green contributed. That's what the numbers say. That's not Supermac talking. That's what the numbers say. Because you told him to do the homework, I did the homework for him. So again, once you get caught up in these arguments with certain players, this guy with the A, I don't know how you got caught up in the Carmelo Anthony LeBron James debate and you just got obliterated. I don't know how you got caught up in trying to compare Robert Horry to Draymond Green, but you just don't know it, but you're getting obliterated by Supermac because the facts are on his side. I'm just here to expose the facts. That's all I'm doing. I'm not picking a side. I'm just exposing the facts.
Out there because you just throwing Draymond out there as a starter.
That's saying, my brother, not no made up shit. That's why I say,
What stats is you talking about, nigga? 14 points, nigga.
Hey,
you don't think we can reach, nigga? Hold on. Wait. You don't think we can reach into the fucking NBA playoffs record books and see everybody's points per game in the finals and see niggas that there's 15,000 niggas that scored 14 or more points per game in the fucking finals?
no, you know
That
what?
ain't even fucking in the Hall of Fame either. What the hell is you talking about? You talking about 14 points like that nigga averaged 28.
Let me tell you why your argument is bogus. Because it ain't that many motherfuckers that went to 5 straight championships, fool.
Hey, Superman.
Nigga. Out of them niggas, there's a bunch of niggas that did score more than 14 though. That's my whole point, nigga. What the fuck are you talking?
See, there you guys go in. See, this is how you can identify basketball dummies, because they talk about isolated stats. What they'll do is they'll say he did not score 14 points a game. What you have to understand is when you're playing on a team with Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and a lot of other scorers, Andre Iguodala, you got Sean Livingston coming off the bench, you have guys like that, Harrison Barnes at one time, it's going to affect your ability to score as many points as you would like. Even if you wanted to score that many points, it's probably not likely. All right, because the 3 big dogs on that team were KD, Steph, and Klay. Those are your go-to scorers most plays. All right, so if you're not one of those 3 guys, or if you're not one of the key scorers coming off the bench, like Sean Livingston was, like Harrison Barnes was, or like Andre Iguodala was, then you're not going to have those scoring opportunities. See, the one thing about great coaches, when you're dealing with coaches like Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr, they're not going to put you in a situation where they know you can't excel. They're not going to put Draymond Green in a situation where they know he can excel in a one-on-one, in a one-on-one ISO situation. That's stupid. I would much rather put Steph Curry or KD in that particular situation. So I'll just use Draymond Green to go screen you to set you up for that. That's what a smart coach does. See, when you deal with basketball dummies, you have to start breaking stuff down like this. And I just hate getting that technical because then it makes this argument boring. So I'm going to continue hearing this out. But again, it's just funny how illogical these guys are. But what it does is it also exposes that this guy really doesn't know anything about basketball and probably doesn't have any basketball playing experience at all.
That's pretty special.
Championships, my brother. Start.
Superman.
He didn't take him there, nigga. What are you talking about?
Hey, Superman.
He didn't take him there.
No, he didn't.
He didn't take him there. He on the team, ain't he?
Nah, he took him there.
He a starter, ain't he?
So
He a starter, ain't
So
he?
Andrew Bogut took him there too then, when he was a starter.
Andrew Bogut only won what? 1 chip, 2 chips?
I don't give a fuck. You said he was a starter, so he took him there. So Andrew Bogut took him there. Steph and Klay was just along for the ride.
5 straight.
Steph Curry was just along for the ride, getting MVPs and shit. But Draymond took him there.
5
He got an MVP. He got 2 straight MVPs but he just was there.
5 straight.
Draymond is the guy that really took him there.
5 years in a row. 5 years in a row, 3 chips.
My bad, bro. I know you was going to talk. My bad. Go ahead, man.
Superman, what did Draymond do in the 2018 final? What did he do? Yeah, 18. Just this past finals against Toronto. What did he do?
Oh, he did his role. He did his role.
See, a lot of people to knock Draymond Green, they talk about that 2018 NBA Finals. They talk about a team that was injury depleted, no KD, no Klay Thompson, no Kevin Looney, Andre Iguodala injured, Sean Livingston injured. They talk about an injury depleted team, and then they say, what did Draymond do? Well, the last time I checked, he had multiple 19 rebound games. I heard you guys saying that Kobe Bryant might have had more rebounds in a game than Draymond. Well, in 2 NBA Finals games, he had 19 rebounds. 19 rebounds. How many people in NBA history have actually gotten 19 rebounds in an NBA Finals game? See, that'd be an interesting stat to look up because that's extremely hard to do. See, why you guys are always talking about points and you gloss over points, in that he was actually still putting in work. He had 19 rebounds in 2 finals games against the Toronto Raptors. But at the end of the day, we all knew that once KD went down, once Klay went down, once Looney was out, we knew that Sean Livingston was hurt. We knew that Andre Iguodala was hurt and not the same. It was a foregone conclusion that they couldn't win. All right, and if you're not being honest about that, if you continuously bring that up and say that Draymond Green should have just magically stepped up and all of a sudden turned into a 30-point scorer, and you hold that against him, again, that makes no sense. That makes no sense. The one thing we must establish is that we know that Draymond Green struggles to score the basketball, which is why the coaches don't put him in a position on offense to continuously try to score the ball. They put him in a position on offense to excel, to make the right pass, to make this right screen, all right? To make winning plays, not stupid plays like what you guys want to see.
No. What? No. What did he do? Did he help win any of those games?
He did his role. You know what? We broke down. I ain't got
That's all right.
I ain't got no excuses for 2018. Our team broke down. It was just too many years in a row.
You had Draymond, he didn't break down.
KD got hurt. Klay got hurt. We broke down. The team broke down.
Draymond ain't stepped up, though.
Hey, check this out. So,
compromise.
Look, KD got hurt, right? KD got hurt. But what did he do in those 6 games? He didn't step up. His points per game didn't go up.
Well, let me look at the stats. Hey, Ticket, man. Let's hire a stat man.
Man, hold on. I'm about to look at Draymond shit right now, man.
Hire a stat man.
Boy, that nigga smoking loud.
Nah, nigga, you the rocket scientist, nigga. You should know the stats. You coming in here talking that dumb shit.
Nigga.
Got all these athletes from down.
Hey, yo, shout out to Monty in the Cash App with the donation. He said Super Crack on that LeVar diet plan.
Bro, I ain't gonna lie, bro. That nigga.
What we looking at? Playoffs?
Yeah, just the 2018 finals.
Okay, 2018 finals. Oh, you mean 2019 against Toronto, right?
Yeah, 2019.
Boy, this nigga here, he got nothing. He said, "What you drinking?" I got a bottle of that ice, son. You played on minutes, huh? You on that same ice tonight.
By nature.
I had a bottle of that ice, son.
All right, I got it.
I got to put y'all on.
All right, shit. Draymond Green, 12.5 points, 10.8 rebounds, 9.5 assists.
All right. So he averaged a double-double.
Hold on, no. He averaged almost a triple. He was 1 assist away from averaging a triple-double. 12 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists. I'm really curious what excuse he's going to say. I'm really curious to hear what excuse he's going to say after he just ran off those numbers himself. I have a feeling that he's going to say that Draymond Green should have averaged more points. They're going to make some excuse just to debunk these stats. That's actually a great stat line for the NBA Finals, especially when you're talking about a player, Draymond Green's caliber. We know he struggles to score, so that's a great stat line.
What? Double, right? So,
Hold on. Listen, let me tell you what the two guys in front of him had. The two guys in front of him averaged 30.5 and 26 points a game, right? Like I said, so his 9.5 rebounds come from passing it to these niggas, right?
He just said his 9 rebounds comes from passing it. I think he might have misspoke. He meant to say assist. So he meant to say his assists come from passing it to other people. But, you know, again, an assist is an assist. Assist is an assist. You have to average it. There's a reason why a lot of power forwards don't average 9 assists in the NBA Finals. What I want you to do, this guy with the A, what I want you to do is go look up how many power forwards have ever averaged 9 assists in the NBA Finals. I don't think you'll look it up, but I think you already know the answer to that.
Man, now you niggas is quiet, huh? Because you thought the shit was going to be even lower than that. Now you niggas is quiet.
No, it's supposed to be higher than that. That's what we saying. Bro, what my man saying, that shit's supposed to be higher than that.
See how they put these unrealistic expectations on players like Draymond Green? They were surprised at the stat line that he had. They were surprised at the stat. I guarantee you they were surprised. And now what their excuse is now is he should have done more than that. The man he essentially averaged a triple-double in the NBA Finals last year. And they're saying that he should have done more than that. Although they were missing their top, they were missing their 5 of their top 7 guys. And he should have just done more, although he basically averaged a triple-double throughout the finals. And that's not to mention two of those finals games where he had 19 rebounds. What more would you want him to do?
KD wasn't playing.
Hey, look. Just go on and just give it up. The dude is a great role player. He's a great role player. Just give it up, man. He's
but a great role player is not a Hall of Famer, though.
If you look at all...
He just said a great role player is not a Hall of Famer, but we just had this conversation about Lou Williams potentially being a Hall of Famer as the greatest 6th man ever, and Manu Ginobili, a role player, one of arguably the greatest 6th man ever. He will be in the Hall of Fame. There is a spot in the Hall of Fame for guys who are great role players. See, again, this just exposes this guy with the A that he doesn't know basketball, because the NBA rewards people who excel in their role. Guys like Jamal Crawford, guys like Lou Williams, guys like Draymond Green, guys like Manu Ginobili, extremely great role players, because especially some of those guys came off the bench and excelled in their role.
All his accolades and everything.
No, nigga, no. You just say he's a great role player. Now you talking about accolades, bro.
Right, they would put him in the hall, right?
Nah, bro. Like I said, Robert Horry got 7 championships, and the nigga motherfucking hit clutch shots within those championships. If anybody gonna get in there, it'd be Robert Horry before Draymond Green, bro.
Well, see, you got to understand that the Hall of Fame is for a career of excellence, and if we
nobody gonna be talking about no damn Draymond Green.
Hey, hell no.
That's why Draymond ain't getting in.
I would even put the snitch ass Chris Webber in before Horry. But Horry, hey, I will say if they had a Hall of Fame for role players, I'll put Horry in, because he did do some great shit. I already said that.
If there was a Hall of Fame for role players, then Draymond could be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
No, but Draymond got a way bigger resume, my brother. He got a
no, he fucking doesn't, nigga.
He got a
I don't think this guy really knows what Draymond Green does. But again, Draymond Green's resume speaks for itself. His resume speaks for itself. It's very easy to see that. And again, his resume is what it is. It's far superior than Robert Horry's. Again, these are the things. This is some of the things that they use when it comes time to put you into the Hall of Fame. Draymond, we've already talked about Draymond Green having an extremely strong college career with regards to winning Player of the Year. He led his team to 2 Final Fours. He led his team in scoring 1 year. He won Big Ten Sixth Man of the Year, Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, Big Ten Player of the Year. So again, his college career was great by any standard. His college career was great. He's one of the greatest Michigan State Spartans of all time. His college career combined with what he's done in the NBA will probably get him into the Hall of Fame.
He got a that's so thick.
Hell no.
Hey,
How y'all call?
You must not know Robert Horry in fucking Houston.
How y'all call Chris Webber a bum when I just watched Chris Webber give Tim Duncan 34 and 19?
So these guys have selective hearing. These guys have extremely selective hearing. Extremely selective hearing when it comes to the Chris Webber argument. No one has said Chris Webber was a bum. We've consistently said time and time again that it's hard to put him into the Hall of Fame because he's had so many seasons where he was injured. Now, if you guys are fine with having, 9 to 10 seasons where you've been injured and you've played maybe a little bit more than half of the games in the regular season, that's you. I mean, again, if you've lowered your standard for getting into the Hall of Fame, that's fine. If you're taking away the fact that players were injured, that's fine. Then we can start letting guys like Anthony Hardaway in. We can let a Brandon Roy in. We can let guys who are injury riddled in, but we knew that they had Hall of Fame potential. So again, please get rid of the selective hearing. No one said Chris Webber was a bum. If anything, we've said time and time again that we know Chris Webber is a great player. The only thing we hold against him is longevity. Now, if you want to be mad about that, that's on you. But the facts remain that he was injured a lot in his career, and it affected his production on the court. It not only affected his production, it affected how well his team could do. If you look back at the 2003 Sacramento Kings, that was probably the best Sacramento team that they had. He gets injured. He tears his ACL in the playoffs against Dallas. They lose. They don't go anywhere. So when they have prime opportunities to actually go win and you continuously get injured and that's why your team didn't win, well, we have to hold that against you, although it is unfortunate.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck they were talking about with that one. They fucking tripping. Them niggas, listen, this is what they think. They think that this nigga playing in the era with KG, Tim Duncan, and Dirk. He's the 4th nigga on that list. He's
not the 4th person on that list. He's not. So we're gonna break down this list honestly. He just said KG, Dirk. He said KG, Dirk. Well, I got Karl Malone on that list. I got Sean Kemp on that list. I got Derek Coleman on that list. There's a lot of power forwards that were better than Chris Webber. A lot.
List.
Best
So he can't be in there. He's the 4th nigga in one of the greatest power forwards.
He's not the 4th. He's not the 4th. He's not better than Duncan. He's not better than Dirk. He's not better than KG. He's not better than Malone. He's not better than Kemp. I mean, how many more do you want me to keep naming? And if Kemp's not, if I'm not mistaken, I think Kemp's not in the Hall of Fame yet. So again, like we've always stated, you can't just start throwing anybody into the Hall of Fame because there are guys who've done a little bit more than Chris Webber, who've excelled, at least got their teams to the finals, and aren't in the Hall of Fame yet.
For eras ever, but he shouldn't be in there because he the 4th nigga, not the 3rd or the 2nd or the 1st. That's what them niggas be saying.
Man, look, I just watched that, man. I just watched that. I had watched like three videos of him and Tim Duncan going one-on-one, and man, he was giving Tim Duncan the business.
Well, Chris Webber was easily one of the best power forwards of his time, bro.
Again, that's a whole nother debate. I'm going to have to end this video again. It's just so easy to debunk people who have limited basketball knowledge because they get their basketball knowledge from ESPN. They don't necessarily get their basketball knowledge from actually having played the game. And again, and what it does is it easily gets exposed. It easily comes out. And you can, a real basketball player can tell because they start to focus in on things like, oh, how many points did he score? Or, when you focus on just those easy to read stats, you're a ESPN type of fan. That's where you get your stats. But see, when you deal with a real basketball player, when you deal with people who really understand the game, they're going to see your value. They're going to respect what you do. So again, Draymond, keep doing what you do. Your accolades are what your accolades are. Again, basketball dummies around the globe are going to continue to hate on your game. But again, at the end of the day, you're the one with the $100 million check. You got the $100 million bag for being a junkyard dog. Same with Patrick Beverly. Same with PJ Tucker. These guys know what their roles are. And again, that's why they in the league. So again, once again, we've just found a way to debunk this panel on Ticket TV. Again, another easy debunk. You guys have seen the stats for yourself. Robert Horry doesn't compare to Draymond Green in any particular category. And again, championships are a team award. And if we look at some of the teams that Robert Horry's been on or been a part of, then one thing you will know is that a lot of these teams would have won championships with or without Robert Horry. We can't say the same thing with Draymond Green. We don't know if Golden State wins those championships without Draymond Green. It's a close call. It'll be a tough one right there. But one thing we do know is that he did cost them a championship because he went and got himself suspended. So again, I love debunking basketball dummies, especially when I do it systematically like this. Time and time again, it's easy to break down the basketball dummies. So I just love, like I said, I could do this all day with you guys. Could do it all day, but again, I don't have time. FYF Fred keeps waking me up with this dumb, crazy arguments. FYF Fred, please stop waking me up to this stuff. I got to get some sleep. But I am glad that I was able to debunk this guy once again, expose them for using fictitious stats, for making up fantasy scenarios for players that would never happen, and then he tries to use those against a guy like Supermac. Again, that's just a weak argument. All right. So again, if you want to hold on to Robert Horry's clutch shots, that's fine. Go ahead and hold on to Robert Horry's clutch shots. But again, I highly suggest that you guys find a way to increase your basketball IQ and your basketball understanding. The game of basketball is a little bit more than just scoring the basketball. It's a little bit more detailed than that. And if you think it's just that easy to go out there and pass the ball to a guy and get an assist in the NBA, then, like I said, you haven't played against any high-level competition in your entire life. But again, that's FYF Sports, man. I appreciate you guys for listening. Again, sorry for another long and drawn-out video. But again, this is something I have to do. It's something that I have to do when I'm trying to systematically break these guys down, especially when I'm dealing with guys who don't understand basketball. They just don't understand basketball, and I apologize for that. But again, it's FYF Sports. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. All right, if you have any comments, if you disagree with anything I said, if you disagree with the stats on the screen, if you disagree with anything, make sure you comment down below. Let me know what you think. And again, we always respond back. So definitely hit us up, whether you hit us up on Instagram or Twitter, and we'll definitely reach back out. But you know what? It's been another great video. It's FYF Sports, man. We out.